I don't care where I live. I can live in abject poverty as long as I have fast, stable internet.
Sure. Connection to the outside world, man.
Exactly.
Yeah, if I don't have it for too long.
What's the longest you've gone without your VPN? Yeah.
Well, I mean, I have it on my phone, but I really just hate this. I need a computer. I'm tactile.
What? How long has it been? Have you gone like a week without it? A month?
No, it's months.
Months without a VPN?
Sometime around Spring Festival.
Doesn't it feel like the rest of the world doesn't exist at a certain point?
Yes.
And it's kind of fucked up.
Yeah.
Like literally anything could be happening outside of Guangzhou, and you wouldn't know.
Yeah. It's so true. But, like, I do have it on my phone, but I don't really use it. But Vaughn uses it daily. And he uses Twitter constantly, and he's always telling me about the world and what's happening. And then we go to talk to Chinese people, and they're like, what? Like, they don't have...
They're not connected.
And, I mean, they could all get a VPN, but they don't even know where to go to find information.
It is illegal.
So...
you goddamn Americans are criminals.
Yeah. China enforces laws when it feels like it.
Yeah, right. China feels very lawless, when in actuality it has way more laws in America. Just all of them are ignored.
So weird. So weird. You know the street vendors, how like a year or two ago they were everywhere?
Yeah.
And now they're not, and they're doing that for the games, or whatever, the
military
games.
Yeah.
But like, is that illegal technically, or is it
street
newly
vending? Yes.
illegal? Okay.
Yeah. So it's always been illegal, but it's just ignored.
Amazing.
Just like everything else. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that there's no traffic police? Literally, there's no one to catch you when you do something wrong driving a car. And so all of the repercussions have to be based on surveillance footage.
Yeah.
And that's why the majority of the population just does anything they want in their car, especially rich people, because the worst case scenario is that their license plate gets taken a picture of and they get like ticketed.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it is all surveillance based. And I talked to a Chinese friend, and she got her license, and she has a car, and she said there's a points system that they have, and they'll take away your points for certain things you get caught doing. Yeah.
Points system for a license.
And it actually sounded pretty legit, and I was like, wow, really? Yeah. And then she's like, but you can just get your friend's number and take some of their points if you're running out. And I was like,
of course. You can probably just make up people who don't exist, and they have infinite points. And
sure.
Yeah. That's like, have you ever been to the Net Bar here?
No, Cafe? I haven't. I know of them, but I haven't.
Supposedly they made it illegal for foreigners to go there last year. And then I heard a couple months ago that they changed that rule. Now if you bring your resident permit there, you can go there.
Fun.
But it's a disaster either way. But previously you had to have a Chinese ID to log into the computer.
Sure.
And when you go there and you tell them, I obviously don't have a Chinese ID, why are you even asking me? And they say, okay, no problem. And they open a drawer, and it's just a drawer filled with IDs. So I'm like, where the fuck did these IDs, did you kill these people?
Yeah.
Did these people forget their IDs? Like, how do you have hundreds of identities in this drawer?
That's amazing. And
they just pull one out at random. They're like, you're this person today. There you go. So, like, how illegal is that? That's gotta be pretty fucking illegal.
Wow. And do you frequent, like, one net bar, or have you been to several and they all have a drawer?
I've been to several. They all have a drawer of identities.
That's awesome.
Of ghost people. Yeah. Some of the net bars are actually really nice. It's very understandable why the average Chinese person doesn't buy a computer.
Yeah.
I don't know how much gaming you do, but you can go to the net bar and the computers are shockingly high quality, and they got every game you can ever imagine. They're all pirated, so they're all in Chinese or they're just like, they're totally broken. About half the games don't seem to work.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you're paying like 50 cents per hour.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That is the dream of a college student right there.
Exactly.
Gaming all day with your buddies. We had one place in my small town that tried to be a net bar in America, and it didn't really work out. I remember going with my dad and my brother and some friends, and we all played Call of Duty together. It was so fun, but it was so expensive, and they just kept raising prices.
Yeah.
And I was like, we can't do this. Let's just go home.
this is a classic trend in China where it doesn't seem to map out. I tried to figure it out one day while I was in the net bar.
Yeah.
And I went on to Bing, and I was Binging all the different components that were in the computers. Mm-hmm. And then I started calculating, okay, they have like 200 computers in here. Yeah. And then this isn't including all of the furniture and the chairs, and all of that was very high quality, all gaming chairs, and like 15 employees as well. And this enormous place, I don't even know how big the place was, but it was probably 200 computers in there. And it was right in the heart of Guangzhou, so God knows what the rent is. And how are they paying for this at 5 RMB an hour per computer?
It doesn't work.
It doesn't work. It
Business
doesn't map out.
No. Nothing does. Mm-hmm. Like, Vaughn was telling me lately that Luckin Coffee, they're just exploding, they're trying to set up everywhere, spending so much money to do it. They're not going to make that fat. He said something about putting all the money in, like, stocks or, I don't know.
Yeah.
Just in the name of Luckin and not in
the actual business. Did you hear about the government regulating shared bikes? And so, like, the shared bike companies, what they did was they open the company and then they get a shitload of investment so that they can build 100 million bikes and flood the streets with these bikes.
Sure.
When you go onto the app, you can pay the per use price, or you can pay a deposit and then use it for like a year.
Yeah.
And what they were doing was the whole business was a scam just to get those deposits, and then they would gamble with it on the stock market.
Ooh.
And then if they lost the money, they would just dissolve the company.
And that's why we don't have OFO anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why you never give them any money. You never pay that deposit money, okay, people? Anyone listening, when they want that 300 RMB, there's no chance of you seeing that money ever again. All right, it's not a deposit. You are buying that bicycle.
Yep.
I heard that they tried to bring out shared bikes in one of the American cities, like Mobike or something like that, and they're all stolen immediately.
Yeah. Didn't work out.
Of course, yeah.
And the cost to make them, I think, was like ridiculous, like $100, and then to use it only. So it was going down.
Well, if each bike has the locking mechanism, a GPS, they have payment mechanisms, they have a charging mechanism as well. Some kind of charger in it to charge the GPS. Yeah. Sounds like a perfect thing to steal.
Yeah. Oh, China.
China's a crazy place. How long have you been here?
Almost 3 years.
3 years.
So not too long, but longer than most.
Yeah, probably long enough.
Long enough.
What are you thinking? Time to leave?
Yeah. I'm gonna go mostly 'cause I got my fiance and I want to have kids not here. Mm-hmm. So
you don't want to have kids in a Chinese hospital and have your children stolen?
Nah, or touched constantly for the rest of their lives. Yeah. Subway. I can only imagine. Little blonde hair kid.
There's every now and then there's an article about like how often children are stolen here.
Seriously?
Yeah, 100%. Like nurses get paid to switch babies.
Well, they can't switch no foreign kid.
yeah. That's what I was thinking as well. Like it'd be a little suspect.
oh, horror story.
But they could just take your child and run away.
Yeah.
So like I've also read articles about how the older generations have started taking it as their responsibility when the baby is born.
Yeah.
They go into like the baby ward. I don't know what it's called.
Yeah.
Where they store all the babies, this baby storage room. And they'll just sit there 24 hours a day, like looking at the baby to make sure no one grabs it and runs away.
Good on them.
Because like they've done that before, they've caught people trying to steal their babies.
Oh, I feel sick inside. This is the worst story. Come on, China.
Yeah.
Come on.
So you're gonna go back to the American health care system? That's the
plan? I'm doing the wrong thing, and I'm trying not to think about it.
Yes, that sounds very American, actually. Yeah. Just don't think about it. It'll be okay.
Yeah, it's painful, so don't think about it. Just accept it. Yeah. Because I'm not in my parents anymore. Yeah. I'm 26. And it happens. We're looking into it, but I don't know what the best is. But just doing some research, it just sounds like a mess. Yeah.
Well, you don't smoke, right?
No.
You don't really drink, yeah?
No.
Yeah, so your insurance should be pretty cheap, theoretically.
Really?
Well, the what I've always heard is that insurance companies are basically taking a gamble on you, and the more likely you are to get sick, the more expensive your healthcare will be.
I see.
And
well, living in China, I might be skewed now.
Exactly. I was wondering that as well. I was wondering if I should say I have been in China. They're gonna be like, "Oh, you're fucked."
Yeah. Or would they even know? They've never been here.
I'll just feed them all the propaganda. It's getting better, all right? Blue skies every day.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful place.
Every day.
Yeah. I can sweep this apartment every 3 days and get an entire wastebasket full of dust.
Yeah.
But there's no way that dust is in my lungs, Mr. Doctor. There's no way.
There's no way.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have a constantly drippy nose for any reason.
Mm-hmm. I definitely haven't had bronchitis every single winter I've been here. Okay.
I'm fine.
Yeah. There's definitely not bronchitis-infested children coughing into my mouth in every class.
Oh, I love this country.
Oh, yeah. Has anyone ever sneezed in your face here?
Yeah.
Yeah. Has anyone ever done it in a drive-by? On an electric scooter.
No.
As they're driving by, and there's no one around. Like, they could easily sneeze to the left, but they choose to sneeze to the right in my face as they drive by.
Well, no.
That's a special kind of China right there.
That is.
It's a special experience.
Can't tell you how many restaurants we've just bolted out of because of spitting on the floor and nose.
Yeah, snot rockets.
Snot rockets on the floor.
Classic.
Preparing food and... Classic.
I'll never forget getting chow mein at one of the street vendors one night, and it was one of the big ones that's like halfway to a restaurant, and so they're preparing food for so many different people at the same time.
Sure.
And so this guy is making my chow mein, and before I asked him to make the chow mein, he was about to butcher some frogs. Okay, so he got the frogs out on a butcher's block and everything like that, and they were mostly dead.
Yeah.
And then he went to making my chow mein, and so I was paying very close attention because I spent a lot of years in food service. I was like, okay, as long as he doesn't touch anything that's going to go into my mouth, I should be okay. And he got all the way to the end of it, all right? And then another guy took over just before the chow mein was done, and then he went back and he started butchering the frogs. Bam, 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 like chopping them up, ripping the guts out and stuff. Yeah. And the guy that was preparing my food stopped and switched back with him right before putting it in the plastic bag and putting the lid on it. Oh. And this guy comes over and he picks up my bowl with his fingers on the side of the bowl and just puts both thumbs right into my chow mein.
Oh my word.
And picks up the bowl and puts it in the plastic bag. And I just refuse to pay and walk away.
Yeah. And they don't know why.
He couldn't understand it. He couldn't conceive. He's like, you don't want frog intestines in your food?
Raw frog intestines?
Raw frog intestines in your chow mein?
Have you ever eaten frog here?
Yeah. It's not that good. I got explosive diarrhea after the one time I had frog. Classic China.
Love it.
It's the best. It's the best. It's the best diarrhea you'll ever have.
Oh, man.
Gift that keeps on giving. Have you ever gotten just completely sick of Chinese food and gone so far out of your way to only eat foreign food for an extended period of time, and after like a week or 10 days, suddenly your body just feels so much better?
Actually, no. Sorry, because I cook for myself, so I cook Chinese food. I actually didn't learn to cook till I came to China, so I just like fry it up with not too much oil, not too much not too much salt, and then
how much MSG do you use?
None. So I feel pretty good every day. Okay.
Well, let me tell you how it is. If you eat the Chinese food, especially like olama, the cheap olama food, the 10 kwai food, you feel like shit, and you feel like progressively worse shit, and then it kind of bottoms out where you can't feel any worse.
Really?
Yeah. Where you shit like 7 times a day.
Yeah.
And like 6 of the 7 are extraordinary emergencies. Yeah. Like, sometimes I'll get halfway to class and I have to shit so badly that I turn around and sprint home, and as I'm sprinting home, I cancel my class.
Oh my word.
And spend like 20 minutes on the toilet.
Wow.
Yeah, and then just go back to bed, because, fuck it.
Yeah, you're basically sick every day, Brian.
Yeah. And then every now and then I'll get sick of that, and I'll start grocery shopping, and I'll just get like chicken and bread and like, real food, and I'll cook at home for maybe a week, and then everything just corrects itself.
Good.
And I go back to pooping once a day, and I don't feel sick anymore, and I have so much more energy.
Yeah. That's how I am. Yeah. You gotta do it, because I can feel it, man. I have a skin issue insurance company. It's not that bad. And so I have to, like, think about it, and if I feel like crap, my entire outer part of my being will feel bad. Mm-hmm. So I try to cook at home. Mm-hmm.
What do you cook? You said Chinese food.
Yeah, you know Qingjiao rosa. Qingjiao is like a green pepper, and rosa is like thinly sliced meat. Okay. And so it's good every time. Can you really mess up like pork?
Hard. What kind of meat do you get? Do you ever get like that? Those like cured bricks of meat?
Oh no, actually. In the summer I don't make it so much because in China, they hang meat in a butcher shop.
They sure do, with flies all over
it. And they set out cardboard every day. Yeah. And they chop it on a tree stump that never gets sanitized. Of course. So
this is classic China.
Classic, everywhere you go.
It's great for your gut biome. Have you noticed, this is a little bit of a digression. Have you noticed that when you go back to America, everyone around you gets sick?
No? Really?
Yeah, 100%. Go back to America and just notice for especially if you spend a lot of time around the same people for like a few weeks, they'll all get a little bit sick being around you.
Cool.
I think being here really does strengthen your immune system.
Yeah.
Because you're just getting bombarded. Constantly. Everything that you just described, I mean.
And water.
Yeah, and this is just poison. Yeah. The Nung food is obviously the best. It's better than the Sesbon. Really? I don't know what's your preference. You like the Sesbon?
I don't have an opinion. I buy the 1 kwai cheaper than the 2 kwai bottle.
Jesus, well, you're going 1 kwai water?
I get 1 kwai water.
You're straight up reckless.
I know. But no, I'm not. I don't boil my own tap water. So.
It might be better than the 1 kwai water.
Really?
You might want to boil that 1 kwai water.
Okay, maybe. I'll think about it.
But the other brand is that green one.
Yeah.
Sesbon. I think it tastes like metal.
Really?
Not that this one tastes good, but...
Well, I've never been one to ever complain about American tap water, but a lot of people do. Like, a lot of people don't drink it.
A lot of Americans just complain in general because they have no perspective.
That's true.
Like, something that I've come to realize in my travel is that the general middle-class American grind is probably one of the greatest lives any human being has ever lived in the history of the world. Because what are your problems? You eat too much? Oh. You shit too much? You sleep too much? What are your problems? Huh? You don't have enough hobbies? You're bored? Yeah. What are your problems?
Oh, I grew up that way.
Yeah, most people do.
That's why I'm glad I'm marrying a foreign man.
A foreigner?
Foreigner!
Dirty foreigner!
One of them white wolves.
You should go to New Zealand. He's from New Zealand, right? He's not Australian?
Yeah. No, he's New Zealand. Okay. In the healthcare.
Is that racist to confuse the two?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have no qualms with the Australian population.
Yeah, me either. But New Zealand seems like far superior. They love sheep there. Sheep are delicious and cuddle it.
Yeah, well, no, I walked up to one there and it just didn't
like you at all?
No.
It was like, fuck America.
Maybe.
Did it seem racist?
No, it just seemed like, get out of here.
Oh, okay.
Like, who do you
so
think
it's
you
xenophobic. Goddamn.
Yeah. But, they just minded their own business, so that's fine too. Whatever.
That's chill. Is it hard to get a citizenship from New Zealand? Can you get dual citizenship?
I know he can get dual citizenship to America. He's gonna do that. But I bet I could too.
Yeah, you should. You might. There's no reason not to.
Yeah, I mean,
do they have universal health care in New Zealand?
I didn't research it because I know we're not going there. I just know whenever his mom talks about anything.
That sounds pretty universal. So if you get citizenship there, you can just pop over and you need something done.
Yeah. Hey, let me apply for that real quick. That sounds great.
That sounds like a good idea.
But the plane ticket, I don't know.
Yeah, well, it has to be worth the ticket, I guess.
That's true.
I used to manage a restaurant, and the employees didn't have any health insurance, of course, and they're all South American. And it was always cheaper for them to go home to have something done than to have it done in America. And so the restaurant business is very brutal. There's no time off. We would have one day off a year at the restaurant. It was Christmas Day.
What?
But I would always make an exception if they needed something medical done.
Yeah.
And so, like, one of my employees had to have a tooth pulled out, and the American doctor quoted him $7,000 to pull a tooth. And so he was like, it only cost me $800 to fly home. And he's like, so I'm just going to go home and visit my family and get the tooth pulled. I'm like, you take as much time as you need.
Yeah.
There's no way I'm going to tell you to just pay $7,000.
Yeah.
You know?
Good manager. Decent human you are.
Sometimes. Sometimes. You know?
Wow. Yeah, you know, I know you saw it last night. Andy posted something about top 9 video games that influenced him. Or whatever. I only knew 2.
Yeah, I only knew the first one, Frogger. I didn't know any of the other ones.
Katamari Damacy, though, that's one of those crazy Japanese games.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Dude,
what's it about?
A cute little man with a very wide head, 3 times the size. And he's like a little alien, and his dad is called the King of the Cosmos. He somehow always destroys the universe, and you have to rebuild it, basically. But it's just cute and colorful and happy and Japanese and weird, and it's just...
Destroying the universe is real happy?
It is, because the music's really... I actually love the soundtrack.
Okay.
But you roll this ball, you pick up some stuff, it sticks to it. And at the end, the King of the Cosmos throws it up into the sky, and it, like, becomes a star. But really think about it. Everything you roll up in your ball is becoming a flaming ball of fire, right? And you can pick up people. So, in a way, I think this is incredible. And if you watch, when you roll up the people, they'll be, like, wiggling around on your Katamari.
Of course.
And eventually they'll stop. And I love it. It's one of those games that I never found that I went out and I bought games as they came out because I was excited, but that game I did.
What was it called?
Katamari Damacy. Who knows what that means in Japanese? But yeah, love it.
In my experience, translations are usually disappointing. Probably called, like, rolling ball.
Well, I know the ball is called Katamari. I just don't know what Damacy is. But it made me, looking at his post, made me think about, like, all the old games I was playing. And I actually think, strangely, I have to give all the credit for playing video games to my grandmother.
Yeah.
Not because she played, but because she had all the systems.
That's cool.
Yeah, you go to grandma's house on a Sunday afternoon, what's she gonna do? Run to the basement, and she had this tiny room, probably as big as this room, only big enough for some children to hang out in. And all the grandkids, we'd, like, fight over the games, and the walls were lined with, like, bookshelves of Disney VHS.
Nice.
Because they love Disney. She had like 8 copies of Snow White, I don't know, but she had the original Nintendo, right? And then the Super Nintendo, and then she had a Sega that eventually died and a PlayStation 1 that eventually died. But upstairs was the Nintendo 64.
Nice.
So
the king of the game consoles.
That's true. I mean, it started Smash Bros, so it really made me think back, and I miss it.
Do you have any, like, nieces or nephews?
Yes, no, I don't. Great question. I have a bunch of cousins that I would like to think of as nieces and nephews.
That's fair point. I mean, because they're gonna call you on until they get old enough to realize that the whole first cousin, second cousin, third cousin thing is bullshit.
Oh yeah. I definitely have first cousins that I think are my aunts. Yeah,
I mean, I've been calling cousins uncle and aunt for years and years. Never gonna stop. I don't care at this point. It's one of those things that it's not worth learning.
Like in Chinese, when they say that everyone's their brother or sister.
Yeah, that's kind of annoying, honestly.
Yeah, they're their cousins. Yeah.
Especially considering the one child thing.
Yeah,
It's like hilariously ironic. It's like they're definitely not your brother and sister.
Come again?
I feel like I'm excited for when my brother has 2 kids. I'm excited for when they can play video games. And my plan is to never ever let them win. Okay? Because I'm good at video games generally, especially like shooter games.
Okay.
and I'm just going to smash them every single time I have a chance. Every single time.
Good.
And it's going to be my excuse for, like, staying up to date with technology.
To crush your nieces and nephews.
Exactly. So whenever I visit them, they can be like, Uncle Brian, let's play this new game. I'm like, oh, this game? I already beat it. You have no chance.
Give them some tough skin there.
Yeah, exactly. No scope.
What?
Yeah, I think that's an important character building thing. Yeah. Did your family ever play video games together?
Mom never did. Dad, he only played a couple.
Was Mario Kart one of them?
Actually, funny story, yeah. The Nintendo 64 at my grandma's.
Oh shit.
Nick would be playing, and then sometimes Dad would saunter over and be like, hey. And that's what they would play, Mario Kart.
Oh yeah. My family used to play Mario Kart all together as well.
Super cool. He got it for the Wii, and he actually, I mean, because that was years ago.
Yeah.
But then it was like Wii U, I guess. Got it, and Dad sauntered over, 10 years later, and he's like, alright.
I can do this.
Yeah.
I think that video games... Okay, so I don't know about the old people that you know in your life, but the old people in my life are very resistant to technology. And do you think that our generation will be the same? Growing up with technology and growing up with video games and stuff like that? Especially video games, I think, are a good way to stay connected to current and modern technology.
No, I think it'll be hard to escape. I think it'll be hard to be different.
But do you think you'll be left behind? Because I don't think that my parents escaped technology. I think they were just left behind.
Oh.
Do you think that will happen to us as well?
No way. I mean, because every adult that ever had a problem was like, oh, can you fix my phone? Can you show me how to do this? And so I think that we just we grew up figuring out how to use it. Mm-hmm. And so that'll never leave. It's just we have this constant interest. Oh, look, there's a problem. How can I fix it on my computer? And maybe you get into coding at a young age accidentally, or, I mean, you've figured out how to set up a studio and, like, do all this. Mm-hmm. So I think that it'll be really hard to be left behind because we were just taught at a young age, like, figure it out.
Self-education through the University of Google and YouTube.
Yeah. For real.
You can literally learn anything on YouTube. You know what I was learning today on YouTube?
Makeup.
I was learning what a ram pump is.
I don't know that.
I didn't know it either, but it's some bananas shit. I like to pretend one day that I'm going to go live in the forest. Okay. And so I spend an egregious amount of time learning how to, like, cut down trees and, like, how to properly dig up stumps and things like this. Cool. Things that I'll never, ever use. There's almost no way I'll ever use these things.
Yeah. So, like, whatever your parents did give you in
that's what I'm looking for
Boy
now.
Scouts, that's what you do now.
Exactly. Well, in Boy Scouts, we would just make bombs and shoot guns.
Really?
Like it was a lot of fun, but it's not very practical.
Maryland.
Yeah, throwing knives and stuff. We had this crazy chemistry guy as our, like, troop leader. Right. He was one of my best friend's dad, and he's a chemist, and he would just teach us the most ridiculous things. One day we made lava. Wow. But I think, looking back now as an adult, I think what we did was we made thermite. You know what thermite is?
I don't know.
It's like this mix of ingredients. I forget what the ingredients are. It's like aluminum oxide and a few other things. And then when you throw a match onto it, it basically just turns into lava. It turns into a plasma. And it gets hot enough to completely liquefy most things. So he had to have it in like a sand bath because the sand is one of the only things that won't liquefy. It basically turns into glass.
Sure. Wow.
Another day we made dry ice bombs and blew up a bunch of garbage cans and stuff like that.
What?
This guy was awesome.
Boys being boys.
Yeah, so that was Boy Scouts,
So cool.
Yeah, so fucking awesome.
Yeah. Huh. I always wanted to do Boy Scouts because, I mean, Girl Scouts was alright, but,
Cookies were great.
Yeah. I remember I sold enough cookies one year to get, like, a little, like, as long as my finger, Jaguar metal paper weight.
Oh, yeah. Was it worth it?
No. Not at all. Thought it'd be bigger.
Well, Boy Scouts is not Boy Scouts anymore. It's just called Scouts.
Really?
So they allow girls in it now. Oh. Yeah, which totally ruins the whole program. I'm not about that.
No, I get it. Because, like, I mean, even though I wanted to be in it, especially now that I'm older, like, yeah, I think boys need to go off and do some of that manly junk. Have some fun. And I don't mean that Girl Scouts have to be cooking or baking, but, like, I think the boys...
You'd be in the kitchen barefoot.
Nah.
No, I think girls can do all the same things, just not together because of the age group.
Oh, yeah.
Teenage boys will not achieve anything if there's a girl around. They will not achieve or even think about anything if there's a girl around. If there's one girl around, if there's 100 boys and one girl, at least 95 of those boys will not hear a single word you say because they just want to go talk to that girl.
Basic psychology there.
Exactly. But the moment you remove the women, they're 100% on board. Whatever you gotta do. Okay, today we're gonna take a 10-mile hike and then we're gonna build a giant fire. We're gonna cut down 6 trees and we're gonna play with knives for a few hours. And tomorrow we're gonna wake up early and go shoot guns. And they're like, fuck yeah, let's do it.
See, this is why boys are so mysterious, because I'm a girl, so when I'm around, I don't know. I don't know what you do.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're capable of.
We're so mysterious.
So mysterious.
I've always thought that I can't understand why women don't understand men. I feel like we're incredibly simple. You know what? One of the memes I love is the meme that's like, women think about what men are thinking about more than men think.
I've seen similar memes where it's like 2 panels and it's showing what the guy's thinking the whole time and then what the girl's thinking.
I love the one where it's the girl and the guy's laying in bed and she's like, I think he's thinking about girls. And he's like looking at the ceiling. He's like, how's that spider sticking to the ceiling with those tiny legs? Yeah. I don't know. I just don't think that men are mysterious at all. Yeah. I don't think so.
Well, good. You are one. So.
And another quote I love is, don't try to understand women because women understand women and they hate each other.
Yeah. I actually never had too many girlfriends, so I'm not awkward around girls, but I just grew up with an older brother and I didn't have any friends that weren't online on video games. And so he had all the like human friends that were physically there. So the guys
Humans, yeah. Humans. Yeah.
So it was really cool to like grow up with a brother and a bunch of dudes because like
you understand them more.
Yeah.
My sister's always said the same thing, that growing up with 2 brothers has made her understand men.
Yeah.
And all of her girlfriends who don't grow up with brothers, they have like this bullshit fantasy of what men are, like this Disney nonsense.
Maybe that's why we don't understand each other. You're pardoned. Because like some girls be like, you know, I still don't get it. I feel like it's a fantasy thing. Like they'll talk about boys and they'll like oh, look at football players and their pants, and I'm like, I don't see it. They all talk like that too? No, only some of them. I do a bad girl impression. But yeah, I was always awkward in those situations. I was like, oh, okay. And then they'd be like these magazines, like, oh, look at them. And I'd be like, yep. Never got it.
Yeah.
I do remember in 5th grade.
Here we go. We're going back.
We're going back.
We're going deep.
Going deep.
Is this where all the issues spring from 5th grade?
No, I don't got no issues.
Okay, that's definitely someone who has issues. All right.
Yeah. But,
that's like someone who says, trust me. You definitely shouldn't trust that person.
Yeah, don't do it. But just growing up with a brother, and then I was more of a tomboy, I guess. And so in 5th grade, like, all the boys knew that, like, I like Dragon Ball Z.
Oh my God.
I would play soccer with them. It was cool.
Dragon Ball Z's the shit.
I know. And so for birthdays, my teacher was so cool. He would always, anytime someone had a birthday, he would basically stop class and he would say, oh, it's your birthday? Be like, yeah. He's like, all right, after recess, come back. I got some chips, I got some soda. Nice. And we would legit have a party for the last half of the whole day.
Nice.
And we would make cards for each other. And all the cards I got were always just Dragon Ball Z cards.
Nice.
It was so cool.
That teacher probably got fired for being too nice.
Now he's still a substitute.
Oh, substitute.
He's old now, but he said, by the time you're in 10th grade, I'm going to retire. And I was like...
But he's still working until the day he dies.
Yep. Mr. Scott. I love Mr. Scott. He was so cool.
Back when you were in class, he's like, I'm going to retire at the ripe old age of 57. Now he's like 73. You know, I want to retire when I'm 81.
Yeah, he got gray hair. I saw him. He didn't recognize me, of course, but yeah, that was crazy. He would always say, never assume. Don't assume nothing. And we were like, never assume. Okay, got it, Mr. Scott. He was so awesome. He also threw some desks. I remember when I was in 4th grade, I was like a little smart in math, not anymore. Mm-hmm. But at the time it was simple. And so I got to go.
You're smart relative to 4th grade math.
Yeah.
I had a lot of those situations in life. And sometimes they can trick you. You're like, I know this shit. I'm good at this. Yeah.
And then
and a few years later, you're like, no, I'm way below average.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
I lost the spirit after I had to repeat algebra 3 times.
Yes. So I took double period algebra and still didn't pass it.
Really?
Yeah. And we used to, sorry to digress from your story.
No, good.
We used to have this teacher named Miss Brian. Sorry for outing you, Miss Brian. But we'd have double period algebra, and this was the class full of kids who didn't do well, let's say. Okay. And it was 2 45-minute periods with 5 minutes in between, and she would break down weeping every single day in between the 2 periods.
Oh my word.
By the end of the first 45 minutes, she would just go off, like, crying and screaming at us, like, you little fucking bastards. And then she'd run out of the classroom. And every day this counselor would come in and finish the class.
Oh my goodness.
He would do the whole second period, and we would just be laughing at her tears. We were animals, we were monsters. But, you know, I can never imagine being the teacher in America. I can't deal with that.
No.
Yeah.
My brother
Because I just don't care. Like, I wouldn't cry like Miss Brian. Yeah. I would stand in front of the classroom, and very calmly I would just explain to them that these kids will never achieve anything, they're pieces of shit, and that they're going to live horrible lives, and they deserve it.
Yikes. I mean, yeah, the school system is jacked up in America.
Yeah, it's awful.
Like, my brother graduated the same time I did, because he just switched his major too many times. And so when I came to China, he got a job in a high school teaching supposedly English literature. But actually, they just give you the jobs nobody wants. So he got to teach the life skills class.
What does that mean, life skills? Like tying your shoe?
It's for kids like you, Brian, who just aren't, they aren't getting good grades in anything else, so they have to go there.
Rolling joints.
But yeah, so he got stuck in that, and then I think a year later, they were like, oh, you can kind of teach part of an English class, but he still had to teach those kids, so, I don't know, he's learning a lot, but whatever.
One of the ironies with the American school system is that once me and all the other degenerates had utterly failed any attempt at conventional math, they put us in quote-unquote consumer math, which was like the idiot class. Do you know what consumer math is?
No.
It's how to file taxes and do like business law and like interest rates and loans and bank information. This is the actual math that we should all be learning.
Wow.
I remember going home and telling my parents that I had finally failed again and again and again, and now I'm in consumer math. And my parents were like, what the fuck is consumer math? I'm like, well, today we were like filing 1040s.
Wow.
And my parents were both like, what? Like, you're actually learning taxes? Like, this is the most important class you've ever taken. Don't fuck this up.
Wow. And look at you today, Brian. You
look at me today. Not paying a fucking dollar in taxes.
But at least you know what that is.
Exactly. At least I'm aware.
Oh my word. Yeah, I had a few classes I could pick from, and I wanted to make my parents proud. And so I was like, I'll take a financial class in high school. And I went to them and I was like, Dad, I learned what an IRA is. He's like, yeah. And I was like, you think I should open it? Right? And he's like, And I'm just like,
he sounds defeated.
Yeah. I was like, give me some feedback, man. Like, oh. And so I think I left that class just sad.
Did you open an IRA?
No.
Oh, you should.
I know, but like, I'm still a kid, and I'm like looking to my parents, like, should I do this, huh? And then they don't give me anything, so.
Yeah. It's just weird when parents do that, right?
Yeah.
It does happen. It happens strangely often.
Yeah.
Do you ever think back and you think, like, you give them the benefit of the doubt, maybe they were trying to let you forge your own path?
No. I just think they had stuff on their mind.
Yes, I agree. Same.
Yeah.
Just.
Oh, you're so nice.
Yeah, you just can't be fucked. Yeah. Just. I'm busy. Leave me alone, kid.
Well, to be honest, my dad's such a quiet guy. I feel like I don't know him. So whenever he does speak, I'm like, wow.
Come on.
Yeah.
So you're all about having kids, huh? You're gonna have like 37 children?
I mean, whatever happens is my opinion.
So that means definitely children very soon.
I guess
you sound like a reckless woman.
Yeah.
Whatever happens. Let's get this going.
I ain't got no dreams. I just know that they'll come and it'll be fine.
That's cool.
Yeah.
You know, I stress out a lot about children, but what I always tell myself is that humans have been accidentally having children for the entirety of our existence, so it can't be that bad.
Yeah. And they survive, right? Be fine.
That's like Chinese logic. Yeah, we're alive. You know? Well, I'm like, the sky is terrible, you know? It's fucking, you can't even see the stars at night. And they're like, yeah, we're fine. There's lots of Chinese people. It's obviously not killing us. I'm like, but it is killing you. Just because it doesn't kill you today doesn't mean that it's not killing you eventually.
That's right.
So going back to Arkansas, or
oh no,
a different part of the America.
I'm from Iowa.
Okay, going back to Iowa.
But I ain't going back there. I
Texas?
love Wisconsin.
Wisconsin? Cheese is a great thing.
Oh, I miss it so much.
Literally the only thing I know about Wisconsin.
Well, that's all you need to know.
Fair.
But we're going to at least have a wedding there. Thought we were going to live there, but he got a job, Southern Illinois, so
what's he going to do?
Construction. Yeah, hopefully recession-proof, because, you know... Well, there's a company that my friend works for, and they do like hurricane, and they have enough work for the next 2 to 3 years. So it looks pretty stable because it's a big company, but we'll see what happens. Who knows what I'll do? I'll work at a coffee shop.
What's your plan?
I don't have one.
You don't have one?
I just, I'm learning Chinese, so wherever I go, I want to find some Chinese friends and hopefully students, because they're in a foreign country and they don't know what the heck they're doing. So it'd be cool. I bet they're super shy. All the exchange students at my university were so shy. Me too. And so they were really unhappy. Yeah. And they don't, my English is too poor, so they never, go make friends. Especially depending on what state you're in. America's going to be pretty aggressive. I went to university in Montana. Okay. And for some reason, when you're an exchange student from Japan, the two options they give you are San Francisco and Missoula, Montana. Really? Yeah. And so we had a huge Japanese exchange student population. Wow. And they were so incredibly shy. And the Montanans are such intensely aggressive people. They're super friendly. Okay. But their culture is like moonshine and guns. Wow. And so the Japanese are really uncomfortable with that. So yeah. Amazing. Just mountain folk. Good old mountain folk. Yeah, but yeah, that was totally my experience too. Not guns and moonshine, but just that they don't get out of their bubble. And that was actually one thing that brought me to China, was that they were so... I just felt like, how can I break this mysterious foreign bubble? And I thought, if I can learn the language and know more about them, maybe a little bit. And now, I can cook some Chinese food. I don't know any history, really, but I know a little bit of language. I got Vaughn, my fiance, he's 10 years in China, so he knows enough. And I just feel like if we go back to America, we'll find those people, and then maybe I could be like their mom and be like, oh, do you want some chinchorros? Okay, let's have that today. I had one friend, and she was always tired, Chinese girl, and I was like, what's wrong? She said, every time I leave my apartment, it's like taking a listening test, and I get home, and I'm so tired from listening to English. Not eating or what? No, just listening to people speak English. It's just exhausting. Mm-hmm. And that's true, because I went to Sichuan for 3 weeks with one friend who spoke English, and it's brutal, because nobody speaks your language, and you're always trying to figure out what the heck is going on. Yeah. So, I think about people like that, and Yeah, if I could fluently speak Chinese to them, so like my children.
I think it would also be funny to see it from the other perspective when they're in America complaining about American things.
Yeah. Be like, oh, what do you eat? You have no food. Hambao.
Yeah. Cheeseburger again? This is bullshit.
Yep.
Do you think that do you think you're healthier eating American food or Chinese food?
Chinese. Oh man, Chinese. Not the Chinese you buy in the restaurants, but the Chinese that you can make. You just get some oil and some vegetables, you fry it up, maybe boil some vegetables, I don't know, but I definitely eat less meat.
You know what I think is the difference?
What?
The difference between the Chinese and the American diet is sugar.
Oh,
100%.
Yeah.
If fat or oil was bad for you, the Chinese people would be morbidly obese. All die at 25. I've been to 15 countries and I've never seen food that's oilier or fattier than Chinese food.
Sure, okay.
There are entire dishes that's just fat in China.
Yeah, that's true.
Just like fat in like an inch of oil bottom of the bowl. And they're like, this is delicious, it's good for you. And they're paper thin.
Yep.
I think it's the sugar in an American diet. There's sugar in everything. In every single thing you eat, there's loaded with sugar. And it's fucking killing Americans.
I see it now. I believe that. Because even Chinese food, they're like, oh, Chinese food in America. I'm like, no, it's sugar.
Yep.
Like, I went back to eat it, and I just couldn't. I was like, all right, you can have it for me.
Everything's aggressively sweet.
Starbucks, like, here, what was I getting? It was a mocha or what, but it has significantly less sugar. I was like, I can drink the whole thing in a China Starbucks, but I go to America, and how many pumps are you putting in there? Like, be careful. You're right, definitely. Also, in China, I find myself walking constantly.
Yeah, a lot more physical exercise in China. Walking a lot. Though, I don't know if I buy into the hype. I'm not sure how healthy walking is unless you're like really unhealthy already.
Yeah.
I think if you're reasonably fit, then walking doesn't do anything for you.
I agree with that, but I mean, I'm not fat, but I'm not. I got good genes for now. We'll see in 10 years. But yeah, no, I definitely I'll walk 10 kilometers without thinking. If you want to go somewhere, you gotta walk to the bus stop.
Well, we're lucky that we live in Guanggu. We can walk to everywhere.
Yeah.
We don't have to grab a bus to a place. You can just walk to the square and get anything.
Yeah. And
walking to the square and back is 3 or 4 kilometers.
Yeah. So you get your exercise without thinking about it. It's not like I have to go to the gym and be like, oh man, I have to run.
I have a fantasy of me running. It's always been one of my dreams. I've never been a runner. I've always, as you can imagine, I've always been big and awkward. And so running has never been a thing for me. I tried to run at the gym on the treadmill for the first time in my life, a month ago.
Really?
And I ran for about 90 seconds.
Okay.
And I felt like I was going to die. I felt like my knees were about to explode, my ankles were about to explode, hips were about to explode. I love yoga. I do it as much as I can.
Really?
Yeah. I did it religiously in college. I actually took the yoga classes that they offer, and I had 8 a.m. yoga for a couple of years.
Wow.
And it was fucking amazing.
Let's yoga together.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would love to.
What kind of yoga do you do?
Dude, I don't know.
Okay.
When I was at camp, every morning, it was only the most hardcore people would wake up every morning at camp, and they would go do yoga. And the dude called it strengthening training. And he was this awesome, big guy with a Harley Davidson and a shaved head, and it wasn't a handlebar mustache, but it was pretty close.
Like goatee almost?
Yeah. I mean, it was there's 2 shaven parts and then 3 lines of beard.
3 lines down the chin.
Yeah, and he always wore sunglasses. He was so
while he was doing yoga?
Not while he was doing yoga, but any other time. And he just looked so tough, always wearing army pants. And he'd be like, all right, this is not just for girls. This is strengthening training. Come here, I'll mess you up.
Well, I think that you understand people's lack of perspective when they say certain things. So, I remember one time I told my sister, I was like, yeah, I love doing yoga. And she's like, doing yoga? Isn't that for girls? And I'm like, what do you think? I'm like, yeah, it's a room filled with beautiful, flexible women. Like, why wouldn't I be in there? Isn't that for girls? I'm like, yes, yeah.
Yeah.
No, so why wouldn't I be in there? But also, I have a lot of injuries. Okay. And when you're really big, it's really, I can like feel myself becoming more immobile by the second. Like I feel my body like tightening. And so if I do a lot of yoga, my lower back starts feeling better, my hips start feeling better.
Sweet.
And really big difference.
Good.
I can't advise yoga enough, especially to anybody who's like over 6 feet tall.
About that, but yeah, I heard that tall people always have some extra problems. Hey, way to go! Taking care of yourself for many years.
I do Ashtanga yoga, and I always heard that Ashtanga was invented for children in India, and it was invented as a way of exhausting children before school. I don't know if that's true. That might be a myth.
Okay.
But it is extremely difficult yoga. It's very exhausting.
Really.
And so it would make sense if they use that as a device for making children pay attention more.
Dude.
I think that we should implement that in America.
Yeah.
I think that cultures like America need things like yoga.
Okay.
Have you noticed how mobile old people are in China?
Oh yeah.
The mobility is off the charts.
It's crazy, and they're always out doing stuff.
Yeah.
Like they're always walking and hitting their back.
Yeah.
I
don't think that does anything.
No, but I mean, their idea is that you want to keep your muscles and everything
active. As active as possible.
Yeah.
Use it or lose it. You know what I think makes a big difference? Squatting to poop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed. Completely.
I think that it opens up your hips and that having, just like you're retaining this hip mobility for so long into your old age. Yeah. Americans just plop their fat asses onto a toilet and just sit there for hours until your legs fall asleep.
Yeah.
Order a pizza to the toilet.
Because I was legit in yoga this week with Chinese girls, and they were doing the squat thing and like put one leg out, but you're squatted, and I was like, I'm falling. Like I just couldn't do it. I've been squatting on patties for 3 years.
How's your China squat?
It's pretty good, but it's not that good.
Like how long can you hold it?
Oh.
How comfortable are you in your China squat?
After this recording, let's test it. Because I don't know.
Definitely. Well, I think there's levels of comfort with the China squat.
Yep.
And if you can squat in a public toilet and you don't feel the need to hold onto the wall, then you're pretty comfortable.
Yeah.
I'm not there yet. I've been here for 4 years and I still put one hand back on the wall.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, I'm not trying to fall into my own poop.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Except
fall into the poop hole. That's a bad day.
Have you ever? I'm sure you've seen it. Like it's a porcelain hole.
Yeah.
But occasionally I'll find one where the porcelain is like there's a hole. I'm just like, how do you clean that? Like, people be peeing into that hole.
Yeah, first of all, I don't think anyone cleans anything here.
Yeah. That's why they always have that special smell.
I think you poop and the next person comes in and pees on your poop, and the next person comes in. It's like it's a train of piss and shit.
Yeah.
I've been in ones where it's not a porcelain hole; it's a trench, a tile trench that's cut between all of the stalls.
In recent years?
Yeah, and you have to squat over the trench and you shit into the trench.
I did that in the countryside.
And there's nothing there.
In the city.
It doesn't go anywhere. It's just a trench. That was in Wuhan.
Really?
Mm-hmm. That was at a high school. Show you?
Show me!
Take me there!
Show me the bathroom.
Show me the world.
Because in the Sichuan countryside, like, it was, there's crops, and then there's a place. I remember at nighttime I had to use the toilet, didn't know where it was. They led me to this like dark room, no lights, and I was like, got it, and I'm like peeing, and I look over, and there is a chicken staring at me. And I was like, oh, it's nighttime, and there's just these hens.
Dinosaur.
Yeah. I didn't expect it. It was so freaky. Because you already feel vulnerable. You're like, well, there's a hole and some boards. For one. See it in the morning. So What a life we live, Brian.
I know, right? You glad you came to China?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think everyone needs to travel, not because, like, I'm some middle-class white girl or anything. It humbles you, because, especially somewhere where you don't know the language, because you're like a baby. Like, what do babies do? They just learn all the time. They're helpless. You need to ask for help. Because one huge thing in America that is like a disease is loneliness. And you can do that if it's convenient. You got your car, you got your phone, you're fine. But here, like, you're like, oh crap, like, I need to, like, buy groceries, or I need to, like, mess with my bank account. You have to ask for help.
Yeah. They got my name wrong at the bank 3 times in a row.
I heard about that.
Yeah, and every time I would go in there to correct my name, they would make a new mistake.
Oh my word.
And then that day, they would hand me the new papers, and I'd noticed the mistake, but I already spent like 6 hours there, so I'm like, fuck this, I'll come back in a couple months and get it fixed again.
Yikes.
But yeah, I do think traveling is really important. Just the perspective is what's important. Actually going to the country, it doesn't matter, I don't think. Honestly, having the, like, travel experience, I think, is very overrated.
Yep.
But I think having the perspective of where you are and where other people are in their lives, especially really horrible lives, seeing that and trying to really appreciate it, it pays dividends later in life.
One of my favorite things I've done in China is there's this old woman, Po Po. I guess that's. So we found this woman, and she was just selling fruit in Guanggu. You know, she has the, like, old countryside, like, on your shoulders, and there are 2 baskets.
Yeah.
And so she has that.
It's like half a stalk of bamboo split down the middle.
Yeah. It's super strong.
Yeah.
Wildly strong. She's just this tiny thing.
And she's super strong, I bet, too.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's well balanced, but anyway.
She got that farmer strength.
She got it. But she's old. She's like 70-something, and she speaks no English, and she has, like, a dialect, and met her, and we were like, hey, it's, like, solid work, right? So we let her clean the apartments for... So I've had her in my home for, like, 2 years, every week. And so my Chinese is...
I think I met her last time I was there.
Did you?
Yeah, I think we had a big dinner at your apartment like a year or 2 ago, and I think she was there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know when she come, but yeah, cool. You met Popo. But yeah, that's one of my favorite things. And about a year into knowing her, a year and a half, she invited me to her home, which was crazy. It's about the size of this room. There's enough room for 1 bed, 1 small refrigerator. There's a little storage space. She puts her fruit, and then she, like, made a table out of some boxes. It's a cement box, and the rain comes in 2 places. Yep. It's
pretty rough.
It's really rough. I came in the winter, and there was snow and ice, but she just keeps her door open all day, because it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You know, I'm laying in her bed and looking at the snow, like, there's nowhere to stand. And she was like, sit on my bed. Seeing her life and seeing how much she doesn't have. And she'll only eat, like, mantou, the baozi, the bread with nothing inside. Steamed bread, she'll only eat that. It's like 0.5 kwai. Woman, like, what are you doing? Like, this is so sad. So I didn't know how she lived until I'd known her for a long time, but if I hadn't come to China and I hadn't met that woman on the road and I hadn't built a relationship, though she knows no English and I knew no Chinese, like, I wouldn't have that perspective.
So after knowing her for so long now, would you say, of course people can't be happy all the time, that's not realistic, and so I hate the question, is someone happy? But general, like, baseline happiness, okay?
No.
No? Unhappy person?
Mostly because of her family. Because, you know, Chinese culture, you should take care of your family, yeah. Important, you honor them, but her family's not like that. So I don't know that it's so much like... I think it's one specific situation where, for whatever reason, she and her children and her husband have a bad relationship.
Okay.
Don't know why, but I know that it just shows me how important family really is.
Yeah.
Like, I wish they would take care of her. Like, Mother's Day happened last week, right? Just a little week ago. And I went to sit with her for Mother's Day because, like, I'm not doing anything. I found her on the street. I said, hey, Popo, bought her a cake, sat there for, like, 3 hours. And so I help her sell some stuff with my poor Chinese, like, yeah, do you want this? 10 kwai. And then, to my surprise, her oldest son walked by, and he, like, brought her a bag of something and left. Come for Mother's Day? And she's like, no. He just brought me food, I was like, are you gonna eat it? And she's like, no. And I was like, ooh. And she didn't want it. She tried to make me eat it. He had someone pay to make it. He didn't even make it himself, So it was just really interesting to see, like, Mother's Day sucks. Yeah. The first Mother's Day we had, I gave her a chocolate rose. It was like 8 kwai. She kept holding it, and I was like, Popo, it's gonna melt. But she just looked it up and down and up and down, and she says, my own daughter has never given me anything like this before. And I was like, ouch.
Yeah. She
works every birthday. I walk out on purpose to find her on her birthday. She's always working, always selling fruit. What's up with this life? What's up with this woman? But I'm really glad I met her.
So now, like, when you look at that life, what does the average middle-class American have to complain about?
He's really lonely. Really lonely.
How many people do you think can meet her but not appreciate the situation?
Yeah. I wish that people could come and see it. I'm surprised that I even got that close to her, It's like, what 70-year-old Chinese woman is going to trust an American straight out of college girl? I don't know. But it was just really special, and because you can live your whole life in Wuhan and never, you can just take taxis everywhere you go. You can eat Western food. We have enough money for that.
Yeah.
But so, like, eat rogamian every day and walk down the weird streets and find the poor people and the demolished housing, like...
Absolutely.
It's all here.
You see the old parts. If you go up to North Street there toward Westlake or Eastlake, there's hovels and streets that haven't been developed yet. Nice to see. And there's a little farming community up there as well.
Oh.
Right by the lake.
Yeah, Vaughn, he grew up in Hankou, which is another part of this city. He didn't grow up.
I was about to say, like, what?
He lived there.
Yeah.
The beginning of his China is 10 years.
He legitimately did wake up in Wuhan when he was 9 years old.
9 years old. But sorry, he lived there for a while and he loves it. So it's still, there's some old stuff, but it's kind of sad because we'll go visit it every few weeks and just walk around for like 10 hours, just see what's still there. And there's always new things being destroyed. Well, old buildings being destroyed, and it's a new, like, ouch. There's streets you walked down 10 years ago. You can smell people, like, and all the shampoo because the buildings are so close together. You can smell all the food they're cooking.
Mm-hmm.
So
Some
cool.
of the food is fucking incredible.
Yeah.
These little buildings right here,
Yeah.
I don't know who lives there. I think it's staff, maybe faculty, I'm not sure. Or maybe they're just apartments. But sometimes I'm walking between these buildings and I honestly want to go knock on someone's door. It smells so good.
Yeah.
And like sometimes I'm hungry and I'm coming home with the intention of cooking dinner.
Yeah.
And it makes me so sad because I know whatever I'm going to eat is not going to smell that good.
Yeah. Yep. I know what you mean. But that's real community. That's something like all these like 30-story buildings, you're not you're on the 30th floor. You're just with your computer and your phone.
Yeah, whatever. And you don't know your neighbors, most likely.
Yeah.
So that's something that I was saying actually earlier in a different podcast is that I intend to go home and I'll probably try to indebt myself, for the sake of a living place.
Yes.
But I'm going to really make a serious effort to meet my neighbors and become friends with them and try to put a community together.
Definitely.
Because otherwise, what the fuck are you doing? You're completely alone.
Exactly. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm like, I don't know what I have to do because my neighbors, I think they're going to live far away at the place we're looking at. But I'm like going to go to the gym. I'm going to talk to people. Yeah. I'm going to like set things up. I'm not about to be alone in a forest.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm probably going to be in like a townhouse. And so my plan is to move in and then go over with some pies.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just going to bribe my neighbors with food.
Good.
On a consistent basis.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm gonna psychologically train them to get happy when they see me because like, oh, this is the pie guy.
The pie guy.
Yeah.
So cool. Yeah, no, you gotta bring people together. I mean, I think when he was reading some article and it was talking about how loneliness is worse for you than smoking like 2 packs of cigarettes a day or something like that.
Yeah, right.
Don't quote me on that statistic.
Yeah,
but
we're not doctors.
We ain't doctors, but it's just like
it's bad for you.
Really bad.
Yeah.
And I mean, my thing is like I love old people. That's one reason I love them. So I might just end up at nursing homes every day. I don't know.
Well, I love talking to old people and asking them questions because I think something that old people have is a sense of urgency with their information. When you talk to like an 80-year-old person, and especially when you're a young person and like obviously a young person, you walk up to them and you're like, "What's important?" And they'll be taken aback by the question, and then you can see in their eyes like, "Oh shit, this is my chance! I have something important to say." Listen, but the general idea is they'll always tell you, "Don't take things so seriously and have fun while you can. You're about to die." Like from their perspective, they fell asleep when they're 18 and they woke up at 80. Like it went by so fast. Yeah. And so they see you at 18 and they're like, "Fucking big, you're about to be 80 years old. It's gonna happen tomorrow. Enjoy your life."
That's right. Yeah, I tried to talk to my grandma a lot more, like, when I was in college. And she has Parkinson's and dementia, and so now she's really going downhill. But right before that happened, I tried to really ask her about her life. And she tells me the same stories now because she can't remember that she told me. But it was so cool to, like, do that intentionally. And really learn something that I can't get back now. Because she can't remember. Same thing she told me. And, there's the family secrets in there, too.
There's a lot of family information there.
Yeah, no one's going to tell you.
I actually went and I interviewed an uncle of mine. I say uncle, it's my grandma's brother. Mm-hmm. And her last surviving brother. Okay. And she had, like, over a dozen siblings. Wow. A lot. I always forget the number, but she had a fuckload of siblings. And so I have a giant family. Wow. But he's kind of like a black sheep. Like, no one... It's this... I've never understood why. I understand why, because people are shallow. Okay. But everyone just thinks he's boring. Because he kind of rambles and he goes on these crazy stories and stuff, and I think he has a PhD in sociology or something like that, and he's an author. He writes books about like the Irish Revolution and whatnot. He's Irish, and he's in a nursing home right now. And I went and interviewed him over the summer. I went with my family to Ireland and visited family. I visited my grandma, and just recently he moved from his nursing home in New York to a nursing home near my grandma. And so when I went and visited my grandma, I went to see him. And it was weird. I almost had to, like, convince other family members to come and say hello to him. And then once we were there, I got a feeling like I got this weird feeling like they were there out of, like, some guilt. Oh. And at a certain point, I was like, okay, get the fuck out of here. I actually need to talk to him.
Yeah,
And so I'm writing a book, and I wanted to interview him about being an author, and I wanted to just generally interview him about life. He's had a crazy life, and he's done a lot of stuff. But I found out a little while ago, after I read his book, that I was the only one in the family that read his book.
Wow. Oh my word.
It's a weird thing with families where, like, I don't even know what to say.
Yeah. Well, it's sobering to think about. Yeah, like, I mean, my brother likes to write fantasy stuff, and I, to be honest, have never read it, even though he's asked me to. But, I mean, when you write about your life, maybe it's just because we're a younger generation, but the people closer to their age don't really see it because they lived through the time. I would make an attempt. Like my Chinese teacher, he's such a cute old man in Hust. He's like, and his English is like great. There's only a few words like he doesn't know. The occasion. I go to class twice a week, and he wrote a book. You know, I think he wrote 2, but he only has 1 published, I think, about his life, and he's seen some stuff in China.
Mm-hmm, I bet.
Like,
well, how old was he?
89.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he lived through the revolution.
Yeah.
And, when was he born, like 40? 30 something?
I have so much respect, and I pay him money to go to class every week, but really, I just want to be around another old person who speaks English, who has something to give me that's not just language. Like, he has an entire life. If we just want to talk about his life, the whole class, there's so much I don't know. Like, I've been going to class for a year and a half now, and I've never asked him about his wife. Like, but one day soon, I'm gonna be like, tell me about this. I want to know, you know. You see it in his face, like he's thinking, you know, if me and my fiance have a fight or something, if I had gone to him, or if I'd gone to Popo or someone, and I say, oh, this happened, you know, they're just gonna smile at me, maybe they'll even laugh at me, and they'll be like, it'll be fine, you know, like, they just have this wisdom. Every time I go to class, I feel peace, just because.
There's like one surviving farm in Maryland that hasn't been developed yet. It just got sold, which is sad. It is a Black Angus farm, and the owner of the farm, I've met a few times because one of my best friends is a farmhand, and he has been for his whole life, and so they have a very, very close relationship.
Cool.
And so this is one of the guys I've always wanted to interview, and I've never been able to set up an interview yet, and so I'm hoping I can when I go back. Going back in like 6 weeks.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Well, good knowing you.
Yeah, absolutely. Stay in touch. But he has met a bunch of presidents. He's traveled around the world. He's a very successful businessman, very successful farmer. He's had such a spectrum of life. And he's got so much wisdom. And there's something so tragic about the idea that he's just sitting in his farmhouse alone.
Yeah.
Like, getting older. No one comes and talks to him.
Yeah. And he's not even in a nursing home. He's, like, living a life.
In his home. Yeah, he's still out on the farm.
Yeah.
You know?
Wow. Out there.
I know. I gotta make that happen.
For sure. My dream is to be an old woman.
Oh, yeah?
It's one of those dreams that I will have a really high chance of achieving and not having to try very hard. I just have all these tendencies. Like, I have a secret little dream that I want to scrapbook for my grandchildren and give it to them when they graduate school. You know, like, I have these stupid little, like, I just want to bake for no reason, and people come over. Like, I'm just ready to be old.
I kind of know what you mean. You know what I've been fantasizing about?
What? For
the last couple of years? I want to have a woodworking shop in my garage.
Really?
And I want to build sculptures in there, and I want to build furniture, and I want to work on stuff in there. I want to have a little gym in there as well. And I want to set up a nice sound system, and I want to just listen to audiobooks and spend all day in there working on stuff.
That's a good dream. That's what my dad didn't listen to audiobooks, but he had the wood shop in his garage. And growing up, like, he would spend hours out there. He's too busy now, but he made, like, all the chairs in our house. He made a shed out back. It's super cool. He made, is it called I don't know. It's like a little outdoorsy, has no top, so it's not a pavilion, but that in our backyard.
Like a little deck.
It's kind of like a deck, yeah.
But disconnected.
No, it's connected. I don't know how to explain it. There's like doesn't matter, but he just made a nice place outdoors where we could hang out. He made a really cool cradle that you rock with your foot. Like, it's really cool. But yeah, he's super talented. When I was a kid, I used to want to help, but I couldn't. So I'd be like, Dad, I'll clean the sawdust off your machines. Like, I just wanted to be part of it. And I grew up and I started stealing his wood carving kit. And he eventually, like, bought one for me. But
that's cool.
It's really cool. You should definitely get into it because, I mean, it's peaceful.
Coming full circle to the Google education that we were talking about in the beginning is, I feel like my parents gave me tons of education, but one of the things that they're missing is the stuff that I was trying to fill in with Boy Scouts, like the more hands-on stuff. Like, ironically, a lot of people in my family are in construction, but both my parents are scientists, and so they weren't handy at all, you know. And I've always had like a desire to build things, and so that's something that I would like to teach myself so that I can teach other people.
That's exactly why my fiance is getting into construction, because I don't think he ever did anything like Boy Scouts in New Zealand, and his dad was not. So it's like, what can you learn? How to cook from your mom, I guess. I don't know. So that's why, you know, I want those skills. Like, I took wood shop. I took 2 years of welding. Like, I still want...
Welding is fun. Yeah. Steel fabrication is surprisingly easy if you have high-quality tools. Yeah. It really is. Good sculptural medium. But to give you an idea of, like, how badly you need this stuff, just putting things in perspective, how much did it cost to hire a plumber for an hour in America? My sink was clogged last week, so I called Jai, and I was like, my sink's clogged, send somebody to fix it. It was clogged badly. I mean, it just instantly filling up with water. The guy comes over, he looks at the sink, he runs the water for 2 seconds, he sees that it's clogged. He gets down on one knee, reaches behind the sink, and I hear, wee, 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 and then it just runs perfectly. And then he just walks away. It took 10 seconds. I'm like, what the fuck did he do? That's like magic to me because I don't understand plumbing. And so the moment he left, I immediately jumped on Google. I'm like, how does plumbing work? I'm like, if I was in America, I just paid $50 for a plumber to come here and do that, I'd be furious. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. It's so expensive because, like, we have, you know, me and my mom and my brother's wife, like, we all lived in one house for years, and, well, when she came, but there's so many girls using the same shower, and it would always get clogged with our hair, and we paid money to have someone come. I feel like it was monthly, maybe not, to, like, just get hair out. And you pay him a ton of money. I don't know how much it was. I can't remember. I just remember being shocked.
Stop shedding so much.
I know. Well, can't control it. But yeah, super crazy. And that's, like, he was thinking about my fiance getting into plumbing or electrician. Yeah. Because...
a ton of money, yeah.
And it's necessary to have a home. It's not like we all live, like, po in a cement box with...
I've heard that plumbing is the best option. I considered going to a vocational school. I had terrible grades, so it didn't look like college was going to be a thing. Yeah. You know, so I was looking at either plumbing or HVAC or electricity. Sure. And you can make bank. That's one of the big differences. Oh, pardon me. One of the big. I didn't even eat breakfast. I can't stop burping. I'm just filled with air. One of the big differences between America and China is no matter how skillful you are in China, you cannot make a significant amount. So. Thing that avenue of profession just doesn't exist here. Like, if you work your ass off, you can make $1 million being a plumber. Yeah. You know, you plumb for 30 years and you can afford anything. Sure. You can live a great life. You can support your family. Blah blah blah. Regardless of your skill or how hard you work or how long you work in China, you're just broke as shit if you're a laborer.
And I mean, and just the whole idea. I don't know, but living in China, things aren't made to last.
They're not.
And nobody wants it to last.
Exactly. Because they need to employ hundreds of millions of unskilled people to fix the things. Yeah. When I lived in Jiangsha, I was there for a year, and they repaired the road that the school connects to twice. Really? They repaved it twice in 1 year. Oh my god. Repave it, and then it lasts maybe 2 months, 2.5 months, and then it's completely destroyed again. Wow. And they repave it again. It's flawless, and it lasts like 3 months maybe.
I mean, I'm not that surprised.
Yeah, not surprised at all.
It's just...
Look at where we are right now. It's a concrete box.
Yeah. They repaint the walls, and then you touch it, and you get white crap on your sleeves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Underneath is just crumbling concrete.
Yeah. I don't know if you noticed, oh no, you weren't in my stairwell, but in our stairwell, like, it's so humid recently that the paint on the stairwell has been coming off.
Yeah, chipping off, yeah. My stairwell as well, yeah.
Yeah, and my balcony. I mean, whatever, they're just gonna repaint it this year.
Yeah, 100%.
I have so much mold under my floorboards. Yeah. Like, my bathroom flooded once, and
my entire apartment flooded once.
Really?
Yeah, thankfully it didn't make it in here.
Oh my word. Yeah. But, like, in between, because I have crappy floorboards, yours look kind of nice.
Yeah, these are kind of nice. I got lucky with these. Yeah. Have you noticed that there are different floorboards in every apartment?
Yeah.
Some of them are tile.
Yeah, and my old one. Freaky. But, like, mine, when it flooded, it got into the floorboards, and then you would step on them, and then like
squishing,
and then stuff would come out, and it was green. It was mold.
Yep,
it had been there. It had definitely flooded many times before I had arrived, and all the bathrooms.
Like 1/8 of an inch of mold under the whole apartment.
Yeah, it freaks me out.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Nothing. You just breathe it every day.
There you go.
It just becomes part of your biome. It's part of you now.
True though.
Well, I think the mold is a good place to end this.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on, Sarah.
For sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good to chat.
If you ever want to come back on in the future, let me know.
Do. Happy to chat.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. It's been another episode of Bullshit in Video Games. Do all the good things down below. Subscribe, share, comment, like, or don't. Doesn't matter. Okay, check out the next one. Take care. Bye-bye. Man I am, ain't the man I dreamed I would be. Mountains rise, so rivers turn, friends pass away. Turns of luck, twists of